It was actually put on the ballot, and it was enacted to increase representation of qualified individuals with disabilities in the city workforce. The many reasons why ACE came about was not only just the hiring process, but because we've heard a lot that hiring managers were having such a tough time to recruit. If you've been around for almost 30, 40, 50 years, or even when this existed, you'll know that departments were only allowed to use the ACE program, also known as Rule 115, back when we had a huge hiring freeze in 1990. So again, the mayor at the time said, you can only use ACE to fill your positions, and it worked for most departments. However, this program was really used by department on their own, and was not held under the Human Resources Department. So every department had their own different way of how they did it, structure of how they did it, and the process. I'm happy to say that in 2016, in the role that I was in, we was able to provide more of a citywide process for all departments, which is how we came up with the ACE program and just standardizing it more. The goals of the program is to increase employment opportunities for people with disabilities, allowing for them to not just take an exam to prove they're qualified, but what we do is we say, you know, in lieu of the exam, how about you have an applicant in the seat, and departments can actually try out the applicant for a year, see and make sure that it's a good fit, where the applicant and the new hire and the manager could agree to disagree or agree that it's working out. And if it's not, then the applicant or the appointee at that time, they can leave the city or just leave that position without any wrong to their role. They can come right back into the city, either through the ACE program or through an examination process. It does not consist of them not being eligible to come back into the city. One of the things I like to be clear on is the ACE program does allow for you to try out a person for 1 year. So despite what the unions say, the ACE program is outside of the union. Everyone that comes through the ACE program gets 1 year into in an evaluation period. Another part of the goal of the ACE is to increase the flexibility for departments to fill vacant positions much faster. So again, we had almost a 90 to 180 day hire with the ACE program. We were committing to departments, and still to this day we do. We commit to 30 days or less, really depending on the department and also how quickly they are able to move forward. And then to increase the diversity of the workforce has been another reason of why we strongly encourage departments to use the ACE program. It supports in their racial equity plan and also ensures that they're diversifying without having to do too much. Civil Service Rule 115, also known as ACE, allows for departments to fill permanent civil service vacancies. Again, so departments do not have to even use the examination process. They can automatically just engage with their department, fill out the Form 3, and say they want to use the ACE program. The analyst will then engage with us to see if we have a qualified pool. We share that with you. You have about 2 to 3 days to look at the pool, longer if you want, but again, we're guaranteeing those 30 days. So after that 3 days, we check in with you, interested in anyone. You can interview candidates at any time. You do not have to commit to hiring anyone. We've also seen departments that say, you know, Portia, we actually want to create an eligible list because we've been waiting for a list to be created. But at the time when we're ready to hire, we will want to see if we can add our ACE applicants into the eligible list. And again, departments are able to use both lists at that time, or ACE if they find that the exam would take too long to fill a person in a seat. So there are options for managers to be able to decide how they want to move forward. These permanent civil service positions must be entry level. So again, those are the first class in a series or any standalone. So when I think about Department of Public Health and just what recruitments we've been able to fill, those have been nurses, registered nurses, MEAs, medical evaluations assistants, a healthcare worker 1, because it is the first class in the series, program coordinator 1, and then hospital eligibility worker. There's many others that I can choose, but those are just some of the few. Many people ask, what's the definition of a disability? And I like to say any and everything qualifies. We've seen any and anything from small as arthritis, any surgeries that have happened in the past, eyes, so any eyeglass wear. It could be simple all the way to severe disabilities, so wheelchair, cerebral palsy, everything you can think of, we accept it all. And how do people get qualified? I think I get that question a lot. What we like to say is if they have a licensed medical provider, therapist, doctor, psychiatrist, anything you can think of that's a licensed medical provider, they just need to identify that in a letter stating their diagnosis of any sort. And then what they would do is they'll get in contact with me, or they can reach out to any Department of Rehab office and let them know that they are interested in applying for the ACE program. And then that Department of Rehab liaison will write a certification stating that they are eligible for ACE. It does not disclose their disability or their diagnosis. It's just a certification that states that Portia Bunton is a person eligible to apply for ACE. And that is something that we'll accept for them to attach to their application. It helps us to qualify them. Again, I stated before, these are just some entry-level lists that we shared, what we want to share with you all. And we'll continue to share throughout the presentation of what actually qualifies under ACE, Portia. And so these are just some ideas. Healthcare analyst is a new classification. I'm happy to say that DPH wants to use ACE to fill these. We recently opened up this last week. We are supporting a department to fill many vacancies. They're hoping to look at applicant pools way before the exam becomes available. This is just one way that they're able to use ACE. A licensed vocational nurse, registered nurses, medical evaluations assistant, hospital eligibility worker. We've hired tons of behavioral health clinicians all throughout DPH. Those also seem to be an amazing classification we've been able to fill. Now we'll jump into the program requirements. So some of the program requirements, as stated, is they miss the entry-level classifications. We are working on redesigning what ACE looks like, and we are happy to possibly open it up further. But as of right now in our civil service rules, they made it entry-level. We've been able to define that being, again, standalone classifications and any first class in the series. That equals up to almost 530 entry-level positions for us. One of the things we share here is that applicants, this is not a promotional program. So what we mean by that is if an employee is already in a permanent civil service position, they are also PCS. They actually have the ability to take a leave of absence from their job to try out other positions. They're also able to promote, take an exam again. However, the ACE program specifically focuses on people who don't have the opportunity to be in the city at the time. And so those are individuals that are contractors that don't have a PCS or exempt role, are interns. We see a lot of people come in as interns that use ACE, people through our GA program that may be eligible and that they're job ready qualify for ACE. So again, these are just some of the ideas of what really qualifies a person to be eligible for the program. Appointees must be able to still meet the minimum qualification, so we deem them qualified. We also have an analyst who reviews all the ACE applications, making sure that people are well qualified. They must also have a certification of disability letter. And again, as stated before, in lieu of the examination, appointees are exempt for 1 year during their evaluation period. And after and once we get satisfactory evaluation from the department that they are eligible to promote and transition into PCS, we do that after their 1 year anniversary. Some program requirements is that, again, the applicants must be able to have a certification of disability letter or a veteran's letter. They cannot be a permanent civil service employee, so we do let them know that once we look up their DSW number. They must apply for entry levels, and again, they still must meet the minimum qualification. So we provide that information to any applicant that applies for our position. The department's requirements. So once a department identifies that they have an entry level that's vacant, they provide us a position number. That position number is our commitment to say, hey, we are going to use ACE and we're ready to look at the pool. If you do not fill vacancies through ACE, or if you decide you're not eligible, we do not touch that position number. We just use that as a commitment to provide you applicants as a guarantee that you are interested in reviewing ACE pools. It also helps us to identify if there's any concerns with the mayor's office or if there's a holdup in regards to that budgeting position number. We can go ahead and let the mayor's office know we're going to fill it through ACE so they can release that position to us. Once you have that position number, we send you the applicants. Again, you have the right to tell us if you want to designate that position before we even touch that position number. You review applicants. Once you select the candidates, we help with interviews. Also, I have to say this just keeps getting better. There's been times where departments don't even interview. They'll say, you know, Portia, I had this person as an intern. I enjoyed them. They did well. I don't want to interview. If they are eligible for ACE, they meet the qualifications, this is the person I want to select. That actually expedites our hiring from 30 days. We've been able to get someone in a seat in 2 weeks. So again, it makes it even better when you know of a person where you can identify and they apply for ACE and they qualify, you can select that candidate. You don't have to go through an interview process. This goal is to make it as simply and easy for you. We also administer 3 performance appraisals, and that is our commitment to ensure that you are satisfied with your employee before a transition happens. So we'll do a PPAR on the 3rd month, the 6th month, and then the last 11th month. At 11th month, we transition people to permanent after that 1 year. Sorry, I'm going to go back. All right. So ACE staff requirements. So what we do is we review applicants from the program eligibility and minimum qualifications. We also go over the essential functions of the job. So once you identify the employee that you want to hire or the candidate you want to hire, we then ask you for, as a manager, for the essential functions. Why we do that is because we want to make sure that the appointee will have no problems doing their job in the role. And if they do need an accommodation, we work with you to put that in place before the employee starts. So we always ask for the essential functions of the job. The next is we want to support the department and the incumbent during the evaluation process. So we provide you 1 year of support. And that can mean things such as a new hire coming into the city, I may come in and say, you know, I've been having some slight problems with my arm and my wrist, and I just want to make sure I have an ergo assessment. And DPH may say, you know, Portia, we don't know the process for an ergo assessment. Those are some of the things that I can help walk you through. Also, just note that accommodations, just like any human being, may not be identified once they get in the job. And so those are things that I can work with you on as well to make sure that it's a good stream process and that there's no consent from you or the incumbent regarding being able to evaluate them successfully on the job. We also work with you as a department to transition the employee after the evaluation period. Screening and the hiring process. And before I do that, I just want to pause to see if there's any questions in the chat while we stop on that section of just what is ACE and the history and how it works.
I don't see any questions in the chat, but if folks have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. Portia, I did have a question.
Hello?
Oh, Viva, go ahead. Hi, Viva.
Oh, that's okay. You could, thank you. So I just want to be clear that this is a program specifically for the eligibility requirement is to have a disability and or be a veteran, or is that correct?
Yes, so the Civil Service Rule 115 is only eligible for people who identify with having a disability of any sort or a disabled veteran. Correct.
Thank you very much, disabled veteran. Thank you.
You're truly welcome.
Portia, I just had a question about folks who get into the ACE program. Since it is entry level, is there still a career pathway to progress into beyond entry level after some time of being within the entry level?
Great question. And so once they are in the city, I let them know that this is their pathway to just the future. And so the ACE program does not support in supporting employees like taking the exam or being eligible not to take the exam. However, we do encourage applicants, even when they get into the city, even in their 1 year, continue to apply for positions that they meet the qualifications for, continue to be on the eligible list and take the exam, and continue to get the confidence to be able to ask for an accommodation if it's needed during an examination process. So those are things that's encouraged for the applicant and the employees once they start in employment here with the city.
Thank you so much. And I do see another question from in the chat. Which agency or agencies provide the disability letter?
Great question. So we get our disability letter from any VA office, Veterans Affairs office, or we get it from any Department of Rehabilitation office. There's one on Golden Gate, I believe 455 Golden Gate Ave, and there's also one in every city in the Bay Area. I'm also happy to share that list with you, and we can share it out to the managers after this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and move on and capture any questions at the second phase of the presentation. The next one will be screening and the hiring process. So what you see here is a diagram of the hiring process. So through civil service, what you get is candidates apply for the job. We have to wait to meet the qualifications. They take the exam, then they're placed on the eligible list. Then they're placed on the post-referral selection process, and then you can finally interview before you get an offer. The ACE program, the process, how it works is you instantly reach out, you say, hey, Portia, I'm interested in using ACE. Before I even get to my analyst, or maybe at the same time of engaging with my analyst, I want to see if I could review the pool. We will communicate with you to see if there's a vacancy in permanent. We'll share with you the applicant pool. We'll give you time. If you're interested, you immediately interview. That could be a phone, that could be a in person, that could be virtual. And then after you select someone, we go ahead and start the offer, the offer as well as vetting process. So medical and fingerprinting. And then we expedite that on our end to make sure that we don't have to wait no more than 3 to 7 days to get someone in the seat for you within 30 days. So I just wanted to share a diagram of how it works, the commitment that we provide, and the process of how it works as well. So again, departments will request to use the ACE pool or collaborate on a recruitment. Once you identify a position number, you provide it to the team. We screen applicants to ensure that they meet the department's needs. So again, some of these things we do by desirables. Sometimes departments say, you know, Portia, in addition to the qualifications, I also want them to have a language because this has a waiver of a language waiver. And so those are things to just be mindful of that we deem for qualifications, but desirables, we still want to engage with you because there may be things as a manager that you want to see in an applicant that we want to provide you. You proceed with an interview and app review. And then again, once you select anyone, we can go ahead and begin the onboarding process and vetting process. This is another detailed step for you, so we'll provide these slides, but the steps are you submit your request to fill. Also internally, you will share your essential functions with our analyst. You'll submit your request to hire, your Form 3s to your DPH analyst. That would trigger them to submit the request to fill on their end. Excuse me, approval process. So sometimes positions need to go through approval. I engage with the mayor's office and client services to make sure that there's no concerns there. And then we go ahead and we move forward with the ACE analyst requesting the essential functions of the job for the candidate you're ready to hire. We go through medical and background screening. And then once we get confirmation from your DPH analyst that they're cleared, we provide an offer letter and you get your candidate in the seat. We provide you a start date. As simple as that. Again, I just want to say before we jump into the benefits, you are still able to have an eligible list work concurrently at the same time as you review ACE candidates. The benefits is if you find someone in the ACE pool, you get a candidate right away. And if anyone else leaves your position or your department, you could still continue to use the eligible list once it's created. I wanted to provide that feedback and share that, as many managers are not aware of that flexibility. We'll jump into benefits really quickly by saying that it is 80% faster than the normal civil service hiring process. We have ready candidate pools immediately for you to review, and we'll share a little bit about what our pools look like for you to get an idea. Minimum qualifications are already reviewed because we have an analyst that does that on a daily basis. Department of Rehab was not able to be here today to present, but again, they put on phenomenal presentations if your department or the culture of your department needs some guidance and support on how to welcome people with disabilities, how to engage with them. We do all that free training for you and your team, so that's something to be mindful of. They also can support with what accommodations are reasonable for the first year. We also want to increase the department's flexibility to fill vacancies. So again, this is not a mandatory program. This is a program to support your needs. As we know that we have a very high vacancy, we're aiming for almost 3,000 vacancies in the city. We're trying to help you fill those as fast as we can. Our ACE support team works with the appointee and the hiring manager for the 1 year, which looks different from how you hire someone regularly. Sometimes you have to get confirmation and support from EEO and employee relations. All your commitment and support will be with us for that 1 year. We engage with you and make sure that you are feeling satisfied with the person before we transition them. Again, the last thing we commit to is you can hire a qualified candidate in less than 30 days and you're still able to meet your diversity needs. We provide some documentation for you. So as a department, if you go back and you're still like, what's the process? We do have a SharePoint, and we'll drop that in the chat of all the different, the link for that. You can go on the SharePoint and look at where we can find ACE program SOPs, and also a list of all of the organizations in case you wanted to do any outreach of your own. We have a community partners list there for you as well. I'll finish off with just sharing some success stories of managers and employees that have actually worked in the ACE program. So what you'll see here is Gender Health SF has been able to hire an employee. And what they said was Gender Health SF and San Francisco Department of Public Health are privileged to have an employee through the ACE program. She has single-handedly changed the culture of the environment that her patients walk into to make the services accessible and make her patients feel safe, respected, and trauma-informed. And so that is just one of them. A behavioral health clinician really talked about how they faced discrimination in the past from previous employers and struggled with mental health issues. They would have felt very intimidated by the city and county hiring process, especially with that examination that you go through. They would have never considered even applying for the city and county if it wasn't for the ACE program and their current supervisor. Some additional ones that we have is, I'm really excited to have participated in the ACE program. Got me a career with the city, which has been a dream. I thought I would not get this job until after licensing, but I was able to fulfill a dream due to the ACE program, and that's one of our behavioral health clinicians. We actually had someone that started as a clerk, and within 2 months of her being in the ACE program, she was already promoted as a healthcare worker within her own department as a health worker too. She says, I want to sincerely thank the ACE recruiter for the support, gratitude, encouragement, and professionalism and workforce development through the process, which for me was extremely difficult, not knowing that my childhood trauma resulted in a disability. I could not have asked for a better team of individuals to work with as a clerk and beginning a new endeavor, which will lead to success through my hard work and perseverance. And so I really want to just say thank you to all the managers and hope that you all are on the call to hear that, because those are some just amazing words of encouragement from people who have actually had an opportunity to be part of a program and a city. Last but not least is a list of the classifications here that we have for you and what our pool looks like. So I won't go through all of it because it's a lot, but just some of the few is healthcare workers. If you're looking for healthcare workers, we have 37 qualified applicants. Behavioral health clinicians is over 10. I know some of the positions that we really have a lot of vacancies in, it seem to be the registered nurses with 20 applicants, porters, health program coordinator, and then again, our newest recruitment, which is our healthcare analyst, which we're building out. But this just gives you an idea of what our applicant pool looks like, and we welcome you to engage with us on any of these classifications or more as you kind of identify, going back to your team and your group, how could you use the ACE program to make sure you're continuing to diversify the workplace that you currently work at?
Thank you, Portia. I do see a question in the chat. Portia, thanks so much for this. Are the pools of candidates for hiring managers review redacted or unredacted or unredacted, sorry.
Yep, nope, and they're speaking of the DID. So the ACE program, we do not have the mandate to DID our applicants because our applicants have already stated that they are eligible for the ACE program and that they are fully aware that our departments who want to use ACE actually have asked to see the pool. And so we only DID if your department states that you would like to use the ACE complementary to the eligible list. That's when we'll DID to benefit you all as a whole. But if you are using ACE just as primary and only, then no, there is no DID efforts.
Thank you so much. And we did have some folks having to step away, but they are all showing lots of love and thanking you for joining us today. Jonathan, I do see your hand.
Great, thank you. Portia, thank you so much. It's great to see you in this setting and being able to share about this program. It's really exciting, and I'm presuming that many folks are not aware of the program, so it's really helpful. A few questions. Do you have just background in terms of DPH, and optimally would love to know about PhD specifically using this program? Any data on that? And I'm curious also if you have information about the racial and ethnic breakdown of individuals in this program compared to, let's say, other strategies and in terms of new recruits. Just to thinking about this, and you mentioned an important goal of this is to help us diversify the workforce. So I'm just wondering, I would hypothesize probably yes, that it's probably a more diverse pool, but I would love to hear your thoughts if you have any data to substantiate that.
No problem. So I want to make sure I get your questions correct, Jonathan, and thank you. The first question is, and what I'm hearing you say is, do I know what the background or demographics look like in the ACE pool? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
That's data that we have through our smart recruiters. We use the same database and platform. Again, just to be aware of the smart recruiters and how it works, we really don't, because the pool is continuous, those are data that we'll have to pull out frequently. However, we really don't share the demographics of the pool because we want departments to know that you've already diversified by using the pool automatically through the disability access. And so if your department is really geared into focus on the demographics of the pool, we're happy to share that. We'll need to just do some data information to grab that information. But that is not something that we do measure throughout this process.
Great. And then Portia, I think you alluded to this, but it sounds like that this is continuous. So unlike the list and the formal process through PCS, where you have to wait for whenever there's going to be an exam and you can actually get onto a list, this is kind of what we call kind of like rolling admissions, right? People just apply and then the list is constantly changing based on people coming on and off the list if people are selected. And so it's interesting, are there any other programs like this in the city where there is kind of or pilots where there is rolling admissions? Because in some ways, this would be a major advance for permanent civil service if people could apply when they want, then they could be added, they could take the exam, and then they can come onto the list. So has there been any discussion centrally about trying to do that? Because that would really make a huge difference in terms of having candidates that are, very recent who've applied and allow us to select folks thinking about this from an equity standpoint.
Jonathan, you make a very good point. I wonder if you want to be on that discussion table with us, because we're actually redesigning what ACE looks like now. And one of the things that was brought to my attention when having a few people with experience on the table is we would love ACE to be incorporated into the general hiring process. We would love a situation very similar to the state where no matter what entry-level position an applicant applies for, they can determine if they want to go through ACE or the regular hiring process. We're not there yet. We're working on being there. But then there's internal concerns on, do we want to blend it in and also not inform managers that these individuals are people with disabilities, because accommodations are going to come up and we want managers to be skilled and qualified and understand how to walk through an accommodation process. So there are things that we're seeing in the regular hiring process that can be used as best practices through ACE and vice versa. But that's part of the conversations that we're having around the ACE redesign, is how we can make it all one process, but also making sure that we know that the community has challenges just getting their foot in the door. And let's just be honest, as soon as some managers know that there's an accommodation, it's the assumption that a person can't do the job. And we want to just make sure education is there before we blend it in one. And then people just lose their opportunity as a whole just because of miscommunication or skills.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And Portia, we do have another hand up. Jen?
Thank you. And thank you, Portia. This is super helpful. For the classifications that you have showing, and I'm sorry if I missed this, I think that you said maybe this is not all of the classifications that would qualify. And I was wondering, do I connect with you directly? We have a couple entry-level positions in environmental health. So I think that that would be most helpful for me, is like to look at all our classifications in EHB and then see which ones right now, at least since it's the entry level ones only right now, that we could potentially use this for and promote, you know, these candidates.
That's a great question. We actually have a PDF file that we can share with you.
Okay,
And that has
great.
a large list of all the entry level classifications. So I'll make sure I share that at the end along with the presentation, and then how to get in contact with Department of Rehab in the case you all need any support. So yes, I'll be happy to share that.
Okay, and then you'll let us know if there's actually applicants that are attached to that, because sometimes there aren't at that time.
Yes,
Because it's a rotation thing. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yep, and I can confidently say that DPH has hired over 50 ACE candidates so far. And I say over 50 because they've been a big support from just leadership down. And so we have a large vacancy. We have large classifications we've used, and DPH continues to use us and ask us to rotate their DPH vacancies on a continuous basis. So I can guarantee that at least a large amount of them have at least 10 or more applicants in the pool.
Okay, great. Looking forward to seeing that. Thanks.
Thank you. That's it for me. I think the next one is just a contact. So again, I want to provide my email. I'll also provide a work cell phone number in the case you all are interested in engaging directly with me. Sometimes the conversations that we have are not sometimes, you know, it's hard to do it in an email setting. And a lot of those conversations can be, you know, I have an intern and Portia's just a little uncomfortable to ask them if they qualify for ACE. And so no worries, bring them to me and I can go through the whole route of, you know, your department wants to find ways to keep you. And these are different various ways of how to keep you. Do you qualify for any of these? And if so, can I walk you through the process so that manager can at least hire you in less than 30 days or not? And so those are things that I'm happy to discuss with any of those applicants, employees, or people that you just think may be good qualified candidates. We want to make sure we get them in the door. So I'll provide my work number here for you. And then my email would be on the presentation. Please feel free to engage with me at any time.
Thank you so much, Portia. We do have one more question. Are advanced practice nurses also included?
Great question. We go based off classification, so that may be a specialty. If you're talking about 2320 registered nurses, yes, any and all specialties will qualify. We're actually working with the recruiter right now to identify the specialties related to those registered nurses. But if you're stating a 2320 classification, then yes, that will qualify.
Great, thanks. Yeah, we have, there will be some upcoming vacancies in our sexual health clinic, and there was a question about availability for someone who's a nurse practitioner to be able to use this as a, beyond their RN. So that was the
Nurse practitioner also qualifies.
Great, fantastic, thank you.
Great question, thank you. I want to say a huge thank you to having me here today. I'm excited to engage with you all in whatever way that looks like. And so I welcome the opportunity to email me, give me a call, let's have a conversation. And although there's things that may not be available now, let's talk about what the future looks like and the commitment that we want to have in engagement moving forward. So on behalf of Department of Human Resources and just myself, I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Portia. Thank you so much. This was very informational for all of us, and we're really looking forward to also our future informational for all staff. And so that's really exciting. Thank you all for joining us. currently, I will go ahead and, as you all know, we have a way to collect your feedback in regards to today's presentation. And I want to go ahead and drop the link to the survey within the chat. If you could just take a couple minutes, we do have a few minutes left. And thanks everyone again for your time. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you have your phone, please feel free to also take a pull out your camera and focus onto the QR code on your screen. And again, I will go ahead and include the link directly to the survey in the chat. Thanks again, everyone. Just give us a few minutes to take some feedback, which we will also be sharing with our ACE program, Portia, and the rest of the team.
And Adriana, thanks to you and Berta for bringing the presentation here. Really appreciate it. And Portia, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
Ooh, bye-bye.
Great, and I'll keep the survey link here for everyone. And we look forward to seeing you all next month. Thank you.